everybody. Welcome to our Tuesday Talks. I am here today with Dr. Leonard from Counseling and Prevention Services. Today, we're talking about time management. I'm going to throw it to Dr. Leonard to kind of introduce himself and how he's able to talk about time management. But once again, I'm Heather Stafford. I'm an RN and also the Associate Director at Student Health Services. Dr. Leonard.
So I'm Dr. Leonard. I'm a licensed psychologist in the state of Kansas. I am the Associate Director at CAP, so Counseling and Prevention Services. I'm also their clinical director. And as a licensed psychologist, I've worked with many students on multiple issues, and one of those things that we talk about often is time management.
So I think the first time that I actually got to meet Dr. Leonard was him doing a presentation on time management.
That might be. I've done a lot of those talks.
So I think specifically today we kind of want to concentrate on time management, but in an online learning atmosphere, because we all know that, classes this semester for students at WSU are hybrid, and that does take a lot of support because myself and talking to a lot of people, you would think online courses would be a little bit easier, but I am pretty sure that most people who have taken it would say it's a little bit harder because there's a little bit more work expected of you to make up that time at home while you're doing the online learning. So what do you think is the biggest hiccup for students when it comes to online learning, Dr. Leonard?
I think the biggest hiccup probably is the fact that the structure is lost. So in traditional in-person courses, when you sign up, you know what days you will be in class, and then you're going to get the syllabus on the first day saying maybe we might not have a day here or there, but you're going to be showing up routinely and knowing that you're going to be spending 90 minutes at least in the classroom getting lectured or doing group projects. Whereas the online learning format is something where you'll see videos get posted and you'll be required to participate in discussion boards and do a lot of independent work, which is wonderful. However, that structure is lost. And so if that is something that one struggles with, that becomes the bigger challenge versus just the coursework.
I think that maybe some different populations that might have a harder time with this than most would maybe be your first-time freshman who came from a very structured high school environment, but then also your returning adult learner who has not only the online learning but a family and maybe a full-time job and trying to accommodate those different aspects of their life. What do you think is the first thing that maybe they need to think about when they go to schedule the online courses and make sure they have ready?
Just kind of a plan or a plan of action, really, and a kind of a calendar, and how much time can they dedicate to really set aside time for learning. Again, in-person classes, you might get a phone call, but if you put your phone on silent, you really have that hour and a half dedicated just to that moment. Whereas if you're at home right now, like I am right now remote, I can hear my kids in the corner. And so if I was actually doing, part of the live stream or trying to get some work done with a course, and they just kind of come in and like, hey, I need some help right now. Hey, I need something right now. It's a lot easier to get distracted. And so kind of setting up your work times, I think, is very important. And with that, you want to know when are you most effective, because there is some flexibility with online learning that you're not going to always be required to be at a place, but you want to know when are you good to learn, and so if it's like 8 o'clock and you have to get everyone ready to go to school or get them hooked up to their online remote, classes if you're a returning adult, or if you're a, first-time student and you like to sleep in, setting yourselves up, for times for class that aren't your most, effective times. I like to always say, work during your peak times. When you're most effective at focusing, when you're most effective to have that free time, you should be setting that up. as your time to be doing your coursework, not, sitting, eating lunch, not watching television, because then you're wasting, your most efficient time to do hard stuff.
That super makes sense. I think some of the things that I read that I thought was interesting was making sure that you can go mobile. And one of those meaning you're not tied to a desktop. Maybe you're sitting at your daughter's school, waiting for them to get out of school or whatever it may be, having a laptop or some other type of device where you could sit there and maybe do some of your reading or
Yep.
listening or watching videos while you're in the car or something like that. We're going to put up a resource link to the university along with this video that does give students options for devices, maybe some free internet services, different things that they may need so that they can be more mobile in their learning. But with that also comes that temptation of, well, let me play some solitaire for a while, or, I'll just get on Instagram and check out what my cousins were doing this weekend or whatever. How would you talk to students and try and encourage them, maybe that schedule per se, but maybe that temptation? Would you have them turn that off on their phones temporarily, or how would you, help them with that?
I have an interesting perspective on that sometimes, because I love the whole checking in with your cousin, and I think solitaire is great as well. And one of the things that we find ourselves getting into when we get overwhelmed with courses and things is we can avoid. And so we avoid by doing solitaire and things. And then we say we don't have enough time in our week. And so we feel very overwhelmed. And this is when I love to bring up, when I work with people one-on-one and in some of my group stuff, I talk about the 168-hour dilemma. And that is how many hours you have in the week. And so what you do is you really carve it out, and you just say, this is how much time I need for sleep. This is how much time I want to study. This is how much time. And what you're doing is you'll find, and most people that aren't in school full-time, have a full-time job, have, 50 other actual things that are just a lot. That would then make me say, hey, we might need to figure out how we can remove some of this stuff from the plate. But what most people find is that they do have time throughout the week. And so what's really important about that is that you plan study time, but you also need to plan relaxation time. So you should be planning in time in your day and your week for your cousin. And you should be planning time, in your day and your week for solitaire. One of the things that people find when they're starting to address any management of their time, issues, and people that come in and they're overwhelmed because they're just always stressed with how much they have to do, they have these planners, and they're beautiful. They're color-coded, they're green, they're blue, they're pink, and they just look wonderful. And one of the things I say, oh, let me see that. Let me see your planner. And they show it to me, and they're so proud. And then I like to say, do you have a color for relaxation? Do you have a color for self-care? And one of the first things they're like, oh, I guess I don't. And that's where it's not a full speed ahead, only work, for planners. Planning, you want to plan relaxation. And people that love spontaneity, I'm for that too, And so when you know how much time you have in your day, when you know how much freedom you have, if you want to have some spontaneity in the morning, knowing that you have 4 hours in the afternoon open because you know your schedule, then take it, play solitaire in the morning if you know you have 4 hours, and that's when you're more effective in the afternoon. And so some of these things I like to talk about, they build off each other. When you know your time and how your time is spent, you then know how you can change it and where you can change it. And then when when you're most effective at doing your work, when you should be focusing more of your energy there. And then when you're not as effective, that's where you build in your relaxation. So that's
just like exercise.
Yeah.
I'm number one for saying, well, I don't have time for exercise. I don't know when I would do it. And
yeah. And then when I break it down for you, people usually find well, I guess I do have time.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that people do with exercise, it's a beautiful one, New Year's resolutions, is, hey, I'm going to wake up every morning, January 1st at 6 a.m. and run a mile. First thing I say is, do you usually get up at 6 a.m.? And they go, no. And I go, That doesn't sound like the peak time for you to be working out. If that's never when you're most active, you're sleeping.
So
So
unrealistic goals.
unrealistic goals, you know, when it comes to knowing how you spend your time, you know, and if you spend 6 a.m. sleeping, sleep is just as important in so many aspects of our life to other things. So I'm not going to tell you not sleep.
Yeah.
So
What do you tell your students who do have the family and who
hmm
need to carve out that online learning? And like, for instance, you're working from home today, right?
yep.
Yep. So how do you manage the fact that your sons are there? You know, how do you make sure that, you know, yes, they know you're there, so they want you to spend time with them, but yet you know what you need to be doing.
Oh
So
yeah.
how do you help students in that kind of reality?
I think you be honest. You be again age dependent. You communicate in the most honest way of, you know, competing demands and things that are going on, and then you structure other time throughout your day to meet, you know, their needs as well. So when I'm off work, I'm a lot more off work now. I'll be honest, I'm a lot more off work now than I was in the past because I'm getting them closer to me during the day, trying to do things. Whereas when I was gone at work, I was out of their mind,
Right.
you know, and now I'm having to say no. And so I want to make it a point to find time later in the day to spend with them, which is important to me. The other thing is support. This experience that we're in right now is so much a village. We need a village mentality in so much of what we do. And so the idea that, you know, I might be holding my kid or my kid might come in here, you know, I'm under the assumption that you won't mind that, you know, and I think you would understand that, which is good. There's grace that we give each other in these situations, and grace we need to give to ourselves if someone was to walk in on this. And at the same time, if we want to have moments where we do have that separation because it's not as productive for me, especially if this was a class, you know, it's where can we lean on our supports, where can we communicate with people that are important to us, that we can, you know, more effectively manage this, you know, and then be kind to yourself because this is an imperfect semester, and you know we should just anticipate, you know, some hiccups and some hurdles, and that's okay. That's okay. That doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you or something wrong with me or something wrong with this process. It's just an aspect of reality that we're facing right
Well, I think if there's anything that COVID taught us is that you got to be flexible and fluid and be willing
now.
to change your day.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So, one of the other things that I read was that multitasking can be a gift, but also a danger.
Mhm.
And so, for those adults, whether they're a new freshman or a returning adult or anybody in between, um, you know, they might have the high functioning people really like to multitask. But it says here that multitasking while you're in online education could be a danger. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I think it's just drawing your attention,
Hmm.
you know, and I think what happens is you only have so much attention you can give, and you're going to get yourself, you're going to lose. You're going to lose if you multitask too much. If you pull yourself in too many different directions, you're going to lose any information, um, any information that you're not attending to. So if you're actually listening to a live lecture remotely and you're on your phone looking down, and you can, anybody that looks at a Zoom call now can see if someone's looking down at their phone. It's super easy.
Yeah.
If you're doing that, you're not likely giving all your attention to there. And so the idea that multitasking is effective, for some people, they might think that it's effective and it's working for them. Um, but in the long run, you're going to miss out on things. And I wouldn't recommend multitasking. Again, it's the idea that you carve out time to be effective in what you need to do now. And so you can also carve out time to do whatever else you need to be doing later. And you know that by knowing how your time is being spent and how much time you have available. So,
What's another tip that you would have for students who are having to do the online education, maybe for those who've never had to do it before?
um, I think one of the things you have to kind of figure out, especially if you are um, working with competing demands like you were talking about earlier it's called and it's really funny because we live in Kansas, but it's the Eisenhower Method. And it's just a matrix. It's a four, box matrix. But really there's four little quadrants, and you have top I don't know the directionally, but if you're looking at it on a piece of paper, the top left corner is important and urgent. So you have important, less important, urgent, not urgent, or less urgent. And the idea is you can plan your day, you can plan your semester, and you can plan your week that way. And so things that are urgent and important are what you kind of are like those time sensitive things, deadlines, bills, things that we might say, are on fire. You need to put them out. And so when you're looking at 4 or 5 things you need to do that week, or you wake up in the morning and say, I have these things I have to get done today. When you look at it that way, it helps you prioritize what needs to come first. And so there's this quadrant that's less important, important, not urgent, kind of thing. And you want those to kind of be like your midterm papers. You want those to be there because they're important, but they're not urgent. So you want to work on those while you go at it. But what happens for a lot of people when they struggle with time management is their midterm papers become urgent and important because they waited the week before or the night before. And so those boxes are fluid too. So things can move within them depending on when you address them. And so when you think about your day, when you think about the tasks you have at hand, when you think about the tasks you have within your class, how you categorize and how you prioritize it can tell you when you need to do it. So
that's an excellent idea. We'll put that image up when we do the editing. When you talk about support, I know it's always good to have that family support when you're, trying to get through, a bachelor's degree or master's degree. But on just a day-to-day with online learning, what are some ideas for people to get support?
Okay. So if it's a day-to-day kind of thing and it's kind of moment to moment, try and connect with your classmates. Again, one of the big things that we have that we don't want to lose out that you have in person is community. Mm-hmm. And I know that professors here work really hard at creating community online, and it's still a challenge because it is a different environment. But I would also encourage any student that is struggling or trying to find some support is to try and connect with students. One of the best ways to kind of help with work in the classroom is if there's like, hey, group projects or, study guides, things that you all can work together on to really help kind of lighten that load and then work together, study together. It can make things a lot easier. There's also some resources on campus, such as supplemental instruction and things like that can help the resources to students.
So we had reached out to Student Success and first-year programs to assist us with this talk today. And so we will put that link up as well because there's the supplemental instruction and tutors. They have different resources from the different departments so that whatever class you're having trouble with, you can find where to get that extra help. What kind of services do you have available in counseling and prevention that would be able to help students if they start having some, maybe some anxiety because they know they're starting to fall behind, or maybe a little more support?
Yeah, so we have a number of options at CAPS. One of the things we do very often, it's kind of our main services, are individual therapy. And so that would be something that totally would be appropriate for a number of students when they're facing anxiety or feeling overwhelmed. You can also have decreases in mood because of academic stress. So those are very much things that we could work with students one-on-one. Additionally, we also have group therapy, which again, students can find very supportive, finding that there's other students that are also facing those kind of struggles and learn from each other on how they've managed it in a group setting that's nice and confidential. And then finally, we're actually getting off the ground a graduate student support group, which I think is a wonderful option because again, we're having multiple, graduate students that are starting their first grad program, possibly at a brand new university, learning to navigate, and that's a whole other adjustment component. And so that specifically for grad students, I think is a wonderful resource as well. So,
If you haven't checked out any of our videos, for those of you who are watching, last week we did a session on loneliness, maybe being isolated because of online courses, or maybe you actually are in self-isolation and quarantine for COVID. And so we provided a lot of resources last week. And then some other things that you may check out is in July, we did some, hey, you're a new shocker, and just some information for new shockers. And we did it for first year freshman students, we did it for graduate students, international students. So there might be some tips in some of those previous videos that we have done where you can get some more resources or maybe find out some more information. If somebody wanted to look into those study groups or make an appointment with a counselor at CAPS, how would they do that, Chris?
best thing to go is to give us a call at 316-978-4792. That's the best way to get a hold of CAPS. One of the other things that you can do is you can see a variety of videos or resources or just kind of tips and how-tos on our social media pages. Again, you can get directed to that through our website, our main website, which is wichita.edu/CAPS. You'll find a variety of links to some really cool videos. I hope they're cool, and some really cool resources that way as well. But the best way to schedule an appointment or to inquire more about groups is to call the main line at 316-978-4792.
Let's talk about some of the health aspects that might come along with having problems with time management. I found a nice little document that I'm going to share here that talks about, having virtual classroom fatigue and kind of some physical symptoms to go along with that. This is one of our college health friends around the country, and they developed this little document that we'll put up on our site. But some of the physical things is we really fight with students who may have some vision difficulties from being constantly connected to a digital device. And so we always encourage, for every hour that you are online and doing your studying or watching the videos you're required to watch, making sure that for every hour you give your eyes 5 to 10 minutes of rest, totally separated from a screen, not just, going to TikTok and watching a TikTok video for a while, but actually not looking at a screen of any kind. Or making sure that you're in a comfortable position while you're sitting, a little bit of ergonomics, making sure that you're not hunched over constantly, because then we'll see students come in with some neck pain or neck strain, back problems. So making sure that you're not maybe crunched up in a recliner and doing all of your online education that way. Drinking lots of water. If you're not getting up and moving around a lot, making sure that you drink all that water to help you. And then nutritious food, staying energized, making sure you sleep. Sleep is huge. I mean, your staff in CAPS and us at Student Health, we are always helping students battle that lack of sleep factor. And then making sure you stay engaged with people. We talked about support. So I would highly encourage all of you to check out our Tuesday talks from last week about homesickness and isolation. Reduce distractions in your physical space. I don't know what you're going to do with those kids this semester because they're all going online, but good luck with that.
Yeah.
And then, making sure you're choosing one person to focus on in a Zoom meeting, maybe just turning your settings to where you're just seeing the speaker. I've done that a few times just because I get distracted by what other people are doing in their backgrounds, which who knows, they do a lot of stuff. Checking your screen brightness. Sometimes those, I don't know what they call the blue white factor with
Yep.
screens can be huge. And then stretching to release tension and stress. In one of our Tuesday talks back in May, one of our nurse practitioners, Judy, did a really good Tuesday talk on stretching for those of you who are working on devices constantly for online learning. And she had some really good ones and they work. So check out our Tuesday talks on our YouTube for that particular video, because I think everybody, staff, faculty, students, anybody who's working from home, that maybe your spouse or partner, that they check that out to kind of help relieve that tension. And then I think something that we all need to remember, and Chris and I always tell students this, is that if you find yourself getting behind, you have to reach out to your instructor. Um, I'm sure Chris sees that every semester, but can you kind of talk about the importance of staying in contact with your instructors?
Yeah, I think staying in contact with your instructor, especially if you're feeling like you're starting to struggle, is one of the best things you can do. The earlier you can reach out, the earlier they can start working with you to help with accommodations if there's something that makes sense that can be changed. I think it's also important that if you're feeling like you're struggling, things aren't making sense, reaching out to supplemental instruction to see if there's any additional tutoring that could help. And if we're thinking that it's something beyond that, again, CAPS is a great resource. We also do psychological assessment for concerns regarding learning disorders, ADHD, and then just really we can help with study concerns and tips regarding that. So the sooner that you can start addressing the issues or concerns, and the sooner people know, the sooner people can help. I think that's one of the big tricks that we play on ourselves, is like, maybe if we don't think about it, it'll go away. But actually, the more that we talk about it, that's more likely we're going to help get through it, because we're going to tell someone and they're going to be able to show us some type of resource or some type of person on campus that can help us, and then that person can help us kind of work through the concerns or the struggles that we're facing.
And if you happen to have any difficulties, maybe you're having trouble with internet services, or maybe you purchased a computer, but now you kind of find yourself in a financial situation because
Yeah.
you're having a hard time with other things. There's always the care team. And Chris, can you talk about how a person could get connected with the care team?
So to get connected with the care team, the easiest way to get connected with the care team is you go to wichita.edu/care. I think it's just care. And that works. And I'll send you to a web page, and then you'll have a box that says submit a concern. And if you're ever concerned about a student, and they're telling you how they're struggling in a number of ways that seem pretty significant, you can submit a concern as a concerned professor, student, faculty, staff, community member even. If you are that person, you can submit a concern on your behalf as well and say, I just found out that I need a quarantine for 14 days and I don't have a remote computer. I've been going to the library for my classes. Like, that would be something where the care team would reach out to you, and kind of figure out how they can help you in that sense. The care team's a multi-department makeup, with some care team specific employees. But again, I'm a member of care. Our director is a member of care team. We have student health representation. Multiple departments are represented on care team. So it is a more well-rounded intervention and resource for students that are struggling, for a variety of issues. And again, so the best way to do that is you go to wichita.edu/care, and then you submit a concern. Again, you can submit that for yourself if you're dealing with something, or you can submit that for someone else if you feel that you're concerned about them. And care team will follow up via email or phone call, depending. I always forget which way they follow up first, depending on the issue, within a reasonable amount of time. I think it's 72 hours at the most. Might be 48. I can't remember exactly, but it says it on the website. And again, one of the biggest things is they are not an emergency resource. So again, if you need something within 24 hours, they are not the place for that. But they are a resource if you have any ongoing concerns.
The important thing is to ask.
Yes.
Ask your instructors, ask for help from the care team, ask for help from your fellow students, ask for help from housing if you happen to live in housing, and to stay connected and make sure that, not only just to have support, but also some accountability as well, so that, hey, did you do this for class? Did you know we were doing this? Did you catch this? And just to make sure that you're staying on top of things. So, if you have any physical symptoms related to, time management, procrastination, something that maybe causes you stress or any physical symptoms. We may see people who, when they realize they're behind, headaches, stomach aches, muscle fatigue, things like that, give us a call at Student Health. We can help you with those type of symptoms. Both CAPS and Student Health are in the same Student Wellness Center in the YMCA. You can contact either of us by calling 316-978-4792. Chris, any other final points, suggestions you might have for people with their time management skills?
I think one of the biggest things that I've always said is, and I might have talked about this a little bit today, is the best way to start making changes with how you spend your time is knowing how you're currently spending your time.
Oh,
And
great.
so one of the biggest things that I recommend is before you start switching everything up, just track how you're spending your time every day for a week. And what you're going to find is you're going to have moments when you're not doing things that you thought you were going to be doing, and you're going to find your time sitting around maybe more, or you're going to find your time really focusing at doing homework really, really late at night. And then you want to take that and then you want to look at that and say, okay, what areas can I change? What areas can I make a difference? And then you write out kind of your ideal, and then you practice this. Time management doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen in 1 week. It doesn't happen just because you write it down. It takes you practicing it and then holding yourself accountable. And then when you find that there's an inconsistency now, it's troubleshooting what got in my way that day. And it's the continued practice of getting better at managing your time. It just doesn't happen overnight.
And what works for you might not work for me, and vice versa. You just got to find the right thing. But I'll tell you, it's taken me 25 years to finally get some time management skills. So I wish everybody good luck when they're working through this online learning. If you have any questions at all, feel free to call us or email us. We've given you the different resources and we'll add it to our video. We thank you for watching Tuesday Talks today, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.